Okay, let's get down to the next part. Let's get through this in case anybody that's reading ahead, or you can just check it out on the internet as well. What's next for The Long Dark? For those of you who know your TLD and Hinterland history, you may recall announced The Long Dark with Kickstarter. Uh, yeah, fall 2013. I backed that. So, from a Steam Early Access launch for Sandbox mode, that's when I actually started working on YouTube and Twitch full time, was September 2014. For the next few years, we continue to expand and evolve the sandbox portion of the game. They went to game preview in 2015. We slowly built out the first parts of Wintermute, our story mode. That was 2017. It was episode 1 of 2. They did eventually go and redo that, though, because they weren't, and I wasn't, it was okay, but I mean, Sandbox, as everyone can usually agree, 99% of people agree, that Sandbox is the seller. The story, you know, but, okay, which we renamed to Survival Mode. Let me make sure I didn't read ahead. Yeah, they did the Redux version in 2018. Episode 3 in 2019. The Switch in 2020. It's not as pretty, obviously, but it does actually keep a frame rate. And episode 4 in October of last year. Somehow along the way, we managed to build a community of nearly 10 million players. Without you, The Long Dark and Hinterland would barely not be here today. Yeah, I mean, I know I've often talked to Raph a lot. We don't always get along, but the story mode is his baby. I think he kind of doesn't like that the story mode. I know it chafes at him, and I can understand it from his point of thing, and I think it would me a little bit too. The story mode, he feels himself more like a filmmaker sometimes. Like the story mode was his baby. That's what he wants to shine, and it was kind of the other way around. But I mean, a win is a win at the end of the day, I think. Yeah. Okay, so now where are we? I mean, yeah, that's got to sting a little bit, but the writing is not that great. It's okay. Yeah, I would be. That was kind of my magnum opus. And they're like, oh, hey, but what about this mode? And I'd be like, oh, dude. When we launched our Kickstarter back in 2013, all backers would see the 5 planned episodes of our story mode for the backing price. Okay. I promised we carried over to early access and game preview backers. Meanwhile, I plan to incrementally update the game's foundational survival mode and align those updates, generally with features and content. The opposite introduced a new feature content episodes, which later found their way into survival. Got it? Just meant to be a test. I think that was originally what they planned to in early access was just going to be just something to play with till they were done with story mode. Little did they know that, it would be such a hit. Yeah, that was just meant to keep players engaged between episodes. We didn't mean for you to actually make us do stuff. But this early 2013 backup promise meant that we have updated the game for free ever since we launched it, which is true. I did often tell them, dude, you should charge like some DLC at some point, because, I mean, they're making still good money, but not as good. We had to update the game for free since we launched, despite the fact the game's scope grew with success and each episode was under a lot more effort and time than we had originally intended. It was a 10-hour narrative-driven survival game with no freeform sandbox. So originally, I think, 10 hours? I mean, originally when episode 1 first launched, it was about, well, because it had a lot of tutorial stuff. It was about 40 hours, I think it took me for all the side stuff. Because it was like, hey, go hunt some deer. Go do this. You know how to sew? I'm like, oh, come on. Come on, man. Come on, Jeremiah. Okay. Now each of our episodes can be longer than 10 hours. Sandbox is now one of the biggest available with the entire genre of open world games. It is pretty popular. I mean, Xbox, I think putting it for free on Epic and on Xbox Game Pass did expand the market exponentially. Okay, all right. Aside from the fact that it's important to live up to your promises, I think this free updates program has resulted in a lot of goodwill. Yeah, I mean, understandable. I mean, yeah, it's nothing but goodwill. Hopefully strengthen our relationship and your loyalty to us as a team and studio. What about this initial promise, and we're happy to have been go above beyond. I think this is a very nice Canadian way to say we're going to try to do some DLC. They're very nice about it. Go beyond over the past several years, but it hasn't been easy. Okay. One of the challenges to supporting both survival and story modes Long Dark has been managing our resources to sustain both. Living Wintermute was a promise and obligation, but continuing to support survival mode was a choice. So survival players didn't feel neglected while we worked on the story episodes. Some of that magic that drove the early years of Long Dark's success and the growth of the game and the community was lost. I think. I think the game actually grew because of that. I mean, if they had just done the story mode, I don't think we'd be here talking about this today as much, really. I mean, that's debatable. We weren't able to survival as frequently as our studio focus was naturally split between both modes. Because a lot of times, we call it the long, I call this the long wait sometimes. Because often, because the team would hunker down on one aspect, they would go do survival for a while. They would get that done. But then, hey, we got to go focus on the next episode. So there'd be a long, long hiatus. I mean, which is fine. I, myself personally, have more games than I know what to do with, so. Okay, now, and these freaking updates were a big part of what helped the game take off. Yeah, I mean, they constant update. I mean, not constant, but good updates. Very methodical in the bug testing. I mean, except that carcass bug now is a thing. Oh yeah, they did. That was a year ago already. That community poll. I sound like this to delegate our focus for the future of Long Dark. Nearly 80% of you wanted to begin producing and paid expansion content for the survival mode. It was more than 80%. Who said, I want more story? I don't know. Maybe. We always felt fortunate there's a core group of you that have always been asked to start charging for content for a while. I mean, be honest, like, I do play a lot of Paradox games. Those guys. They'll charge you for anything. So this isn't bad. Okay, strongest indication where the players wanted us to prioritize. Unfortunately, updating survival mode with paid DLC is not that simple. The decision we made early in the project's inception. You want story or DLC? Well, I know I would like. I mean, for my own sake, and I think everyone else's, you should finish episode 5. Try to wrap it up. What I feel like the original story right now is they're trying to segue. They're trying to leave something up for a second season. I don't think that's a good idea. Yeah, they talked about the split thing before. And this is a problem too, because if you want to incorporate something into story mode, but what if you put that stuff in story, but that's also in the DLC? I think that's what they're trying to talk about. Because that's kind of weird. It's not that simple. Due to decisions we made early in the project's inception, the game's survival foundation has been distinctly linked to the story mode. And the story has been dependent on the core survival, because it's a lot more of a survival-y type of story and survival than you kind of used to. Maybe Green Hell is kind of similar, but this has meant that over time the game has increased in scope and complexity, new mechanics, new regions, new challenges, new episodes. The game has become unwieldy. I mean, development-wise, I could agree. Yeah, I might be retired by the time season 2 would be done. I don't know. I hope we're not all here to. I hope we are, but you know. Yeah, and every update requires the entire game to be retested because they've got what causes a bug in story mode often doesn't cause a bug in survival and vice versa. So you got to retest and retest and retest. I get that. Content code have to root deep in both parts of the game. Maybe a week per update. Yeah, they used to. I was once during a live stream, we found a bug, and I was on the live stream with the technical director. He fixed that while we were playing. Like, I got it updated, and I updated during the game, and it fixed. Like, that used to be kind of the norm, but as the project got bigger and bigger, it's a lot tougher to do that, because now you got to update for consoles, console verification, testing. Yeah, it's kind of gets a little out of hand. Deep in a relationship between mechanics and content between the modes also meant some updates we would have liked to make in one area couldn't really be done because how they may impact the other. It's too big. I mean, yeah, I can see that. So this is what they're kind of getting into what they're talking about before. Separate survival and story into each its own game. But if you own the Long Dark, you get both. You get both, so you don't have to worry. It's been a huge amount of work, so probably what a lot of the silence has been decoupling these things. I mean, that's got to separate code. Probably a lot of rewriting. Is that we're now at a point where survival mode runs as a standalone experience with no linkage back to story mode. Okay, so then how can they update survival independent of story? So story can be its own thing, survival can be its own thing. So now I think they've separated the code. I don't know if they've made it two different copies yet, but they've separated the code. So if they want to update survival mode, they don't affect that. Yeah. I think they've managed to untangle that. So that's a good news. Opposition will soon be true. So now they're working on story. So making sure everything they do in story that won't go into any code in survival. When we update episode 5, we'll be able to do that. Okay, so that's nice. So if there's a bug in episode, like, because I know a lot of people, some people don't even play story mode. But then you get a bug from story mode and you're like, oh, come on, man. So yeah, that's kind of nice. Behind the scenes work to turn later. But how does that impact me? Well, I think it'll be a good going forward for him. I think it's a good idea. I think it'd be faster updates or the DLC. It would go a lot faster because you don't have to retest two things. All right. Yeah, everyone know like you still get everything. Then nobody freak out. Okay, so now we're talking about paid content for survival mode. And I mean, as long as it's reasonably priced, I don't mind it. I don't like, they had a thing on there for skins. I'm like, no, 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 we're not doing that. I love Hinterland, but no. Okay, let us hear we will be launching a paid update path for survival mode. Okay. Now we're getting into the news. Sorry this took so long. The first paid content we've added to the Long Dark. Apart from the soundtracks. They're actually quite low. My only complaint about Long Dark songs is they're like less than 2 minutes. It's just the teasers, it's stingers. Details of roadmap, but I can tell you, so this isn't 100%, but this is their general idea. So, season pass, 15 to 18 month campaign of updates. Okay. Updates will come across regular cadence over the course of that period. Okay, so year, half pass, something like that. Okay, so far you got me on board. A combination of content and gameplay system updates. New regions. Okay, so new maps incoming. New challenges. Okay, we haven't had a new challenge in a while. New mechanics, as well as general improvements and updates. Now, the question is there going to be general improvements to the base game, though? Like if there's... that'll be... Well... We'll just have to wait and see. Okay, so they will actually... they'll also, if you don't want to do a season pass... it'll probably be cheaper. I'll probably just get season pass anyway. They'll probably repackage the content into 3 or 4 individual DLCs over the course of 15 to 18 months. So that's still a good 3 to 4 months. Yeah. The co-op mod does work for story. It's kind of janky, but the Sky mod, and that's not perfect, but it does work pretty well. I know we do have a video on that. I know Hinterland just never want to get in the multiplayer thing. My only thing was like, that's cha-ching, you know? That's money. I mean, like, I don't know, leave that money on the table. Okay. Make sure existing players... Now, I wonder how they're going to do that, though. So they're still going to do some free updates. So, so you're going to get something. Maybe not what you want, but... Okay, they're going to be generally smaller, more modest improvements. So there's still going to be some quality of life issues. Yeah. Like, I know people like that, though. Like, every game I play, like, number one thing first people ask me is, like, multiplayer. I'm like, I don't get it myself. But, you know, I do play a lot of multiplayer stuff, but I'm like, I think there's nothing wrong with a single-player game. I really don't. So if you don't get any of the DLC or anything, you're still going to get some free little updates. It's nothing going to be spectacular, but they'll still update, make sure there's no bugs, etc. Everything seems pretty cool for me. Yeah. Hey, looking for water. We're just going over the Dev Diary update. They're talking about their new plan for the upcoming, going to be a season pass sometime later this year, I do believe. What's going forward for Hinterland? Yeah, just an April Dev Diary update today. So we're talking about, then we'll get into Stalker live stream. Sorry, this has already been like 20 minutes. But, okay, this is a big departure. I mean, nothing to be scared about. I mean, generally, I know a lot of people. How many times I've seen people get it on sale for like $7, like the whole thing. Not many people do I know that paid for full price. Not many people, I don't think. Okay, but let's say New Year's content up. I mean, you got to be financially self-sustaining. I understand that. That's kind of importante. Yeah, we can't justify giving it for free anymore. I mean, 8 years. I mean, yeah. I think it's past time, actually. Yeah. I mean, I don't see a negative. We don't expect people to work for free. The three-tiered approach. Yeah, three. I think it works well. I see no downside to this. It depends on how much the season pass is, though. I mean, one thing that's also is I've seen games do season passes, but then like the game company goes under, or like they don't do what they say they're gonna do. Hinterland's the one company I would trust to do it. Yeah, they've always kept their word. I wouldn't see that thing going on. So they got a pre-order period for the pass on the platforms where such a thing is possible. Okay, so second half of the year. Okay, but is there going to be something plus gas tax? I'm gonna guess it's probably $20. That's gonna be a guess, $20 to $30. I don't think it's gonna be higher than that. I would be very surprised if it's $49.99. No, that's like a paradox price. That's something like that. And leadership changes. Okay. Oh yes, because they did hire a lead narrative writer, so Raph is not writing this anymore. I mean, I'll just leave that alone. So okay, so be looking forward to that second half of the year. Not too bad. Okay, so he's gonna take over project lead. Designed every region from Pleasant Valley onwards. Okay, was this really so I wonder if I think Raph is kind of stepping away from leading the Long Dark. They have several other titles they're actually working on right now. Yeah, it depends on what DLC it is. I mean, for like Stellaris, it's usually little things. I haven't even had time to play Stellaris, but I still get the DLC. Yeah, I mean, $20, that's a no-brainer. That's easy buy. So I think he's going to be working on some of those other projects they're working on. Which one is a co-op online, and I'm like, not really my deal, but well, we'll check it out. Okay, so Katie Sorrell is going to be taking over as lead designer. Got it. Maybe he'll just go more into kind of the CEO kind of role. Got it. Yeah, that's fair. I think that's very good. I mean, I like to see him. I mean, 10 something years to work on one thing is, yeah. I just buy him. I don't God, Paradox has to be so trained. Like, I don't even question it. But I do love him so. Okay, so Raph is going to be stepping away kind of from doing TLD stuff. Yeah, I could see wanting to do other stuff too. Do my writing muscles summon new creative challenge for Hinterland? Yeah, so he's going to be working on the new projects. Something we'll have to keep an eye on. So he wrote the script for episode 5. Oh, good. But hopefully fruitful creative period so I can come up with something new. Oh, nice. Oh, good. I like that. That's nice, man. Of course, it's gonna be a while if we hear anything, but we'll keep our ears open. Not the beginning of the end, but the end of the beginning. Okay. Okay, so he's still the creative director, so still a big man. Yeah, he's still gonna look at it, of course, but he's gonna have a more of Todd Howard role. Except he tells the truth. Yeah, because he wants to be a multi-project studio. Okay. Talking about paid stream, episode 5. So next year, I did not think it would be this year. I would say December 2023. Okay. And I do expect that will be the end of story mode or the season. I cannot believe they would actually set up for season 2. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Never know. Right, that was from Raph. Nice little picture there. That was very nice. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, 1 second here. I will get